state's first death related to a severe lung illness associated with vaping. Stocks finished the day higher on Wall Street. The Dow added 97 points. The S&P gained 15. The Nasdaq rose 60. You're listening to ABC News.
Hi, my name's Christina Stumble, and I own Farm Girl Flowers in San Francisco. With my Spark Cash Card from Capital One, I earn unlimited 2% cash back on all my business purchases. Last year, I redeemed $115,000 in cash back. Yeah, $115,000. And that doubled our digital marketing budget for the summer. Thanks to my Spark Card, we had our best summer yet. Imagine what the Spark Card from Capital One could do for your business. What's in your wallet?
Real Capital One customers pay for real stories. Credit approval required.
Staples is more than a place you go to make copies.
It's where a conversation with an associate sparked the idea for my business card to double as a coupon. And it's where I go to reach potential customers with custom postcards.
Staples can help make your big ideas bigger ideas. And right now, when you make a select print and marketing services purchase, you receive 20% off your next order. Staples, for your business printing and beyond. In-store only, ends 11/9/19. Exclusions apply. See staples.com/print20 for details.
An independent investigator finds no wrongdoing by the New York Archdiocese in its handling of a clergy sex abuse scandal.
Former federal judge and prosecutor Barbara Jones conducted a year-long independent investigation and reported her findings.
No archdiocesan priest or deacon with a substantiated allegation of abuse of a minor remains in ministry today in this archdiocese.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan, Archbishop of New York.
I've held my breath, and now I'm very grateful and very relieved. Thank you, Judge.
The New York Archdiocese is facing a slew of lawsuits accusing clergy of abuse. Mona Rivera, ABC News, New York.
The second phase of LA's plastic straw ban starts tomorrow.
It's about to become a crime to serve a customer a plastic straw here in Los Angeles unless requested by that customer. A limited version of the law went into effect in April, impacting restaurants with over 26 employees. Now all restaurants, including fast food, will be banned from serving plastic straws. The city's aim is to help the environment and stop debris flow into the ocean. Alex Stone, ABC News, Los Angeles.
A Polish daredevil who last year skied down K2 says on Facebook he's abandoning his effort to ski down Mount Everest. He's literally being blocked by a ridge of glacial ice on the way to the first camp. Autumn expeditions on Everest are rare. This is ABC News.
What gives one company the edge over another? Maybe it's not one thing. Maybe it's taking care of lots of things that help a business run smoothly. In other words, Cintas. Cintas has products that help your people stay safe and apparel programs that convey the right image. They service fire protection equipment, deliver and stock restroom supplies, and make sure facilities are clean and ready. Because when all those things work together, you're in business.
Oh, I'm ready!
Get Cintas and get ready for the workday.
Daria Albinger, ABC News.
From the KMET Weather Center for Beaumont and the Pass area, sunny skies this afternoon, breezy at times. High today of 69. Clear and cool tonight with a low of 42. Tomorrow, sunny, calm, and high of 71. And tomorrow night, clear with a low of 46. For the Inland Empire this afternoon, mostly sunny skies, light winds, and a high of 72. And for the Palm Springs area, sunny, calm wind with a high of 85. I'm Rich Summers for Smart Talk 1490 KMET.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This show is about what matters most in life: our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. Today, in this show, I'll bring you the latest research about teenagers less likely to respond to mothers with controlling tone of voice. This new study showed adolescents were less likely to want to engage with schoolwork when mothers spoke with a pressurizing tone. Well, I thought that's exactly the same for everybody, right? You can't talk like that to your mate. You can't talk like that to anybody, your coworkers or employees or anybody. But I guess the study is with teenagers, so we'll understand more about it. Then I will speak to Dr. Habib Sadeghi. He's the founder of Beehive Integrative and Healing Medical Center. He's called the Soul Doctor. He's amazing. And he's the author of the Clarity Cleanse. And it was forwarded by Gwyneth Paltrow. It's his 12 steps of finding renewed energy, spiritual fulfillment, and emotional healing. He's a great presenter, and I always have a lot of fun when I talk to him, and I learn a lot. You can call us on the studio line, 951-922-3532, to speak to Dr. Sadeghi or I. Be sure to listen to my podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, and share with, go to YouTube channel. You can go to my website, Foojan.com. I'd love to hear from you. Email me. Let me know what it is that you like. Go to the podcast and subscribe and write some reviews. Love to hear from you. We'll be right back with the tip of the week.
Hello, I'm Dr. Foojan, and I have great news for you. I'm offering a special time-limited offer to anyone who's interested in online therapy or coaching sessions. I've developed the awareness integration model, which allows in only 12 weeks to raise your self-esteem and confidence and let go of your thoughts and emotions that produce depression and anxiety for you. So call today to schedule your online session and save $600. Call me today at 818-648-2140. That's 818-648-2140. Or go to www.foojan.com.
Hey, this week has been all about love. The week of love, the week of openness. And therefore, a lot of abundance and generosity from the surrounding. I've really experienced this week. It was really interesting. As I experienced love myself, the world kind of opened. Or I thought it opened. Maybe it was always there. And when I was closed, I wasn't experiencing. So have you noticed when you are closed, upset, or tired, feeling non-trusting, or angry, you may not be able to receive the love and abundance that is offered to you from your surroundings. You may not see it or appreciate it. Have you noticed that when you are open, calm, trusting, and in gratitude, you will notice what is out there from the world and around you and from people who are around you? You may even notice that the comfort that you have a home to live in, furniture to use, warm water to take a shower with, a fridge full of food, a car to drive, clothes to wear, and all in all is an accumulation of work of many people who work hard for you. You may notice how your parents, your mate, your children, co-workers, neighbors offer you their love and service. You can begin appreciating how you contribute also to this network of resources and appreciate everyone who contributes to you directly or indirectly. When you face the world with love and openness, you begin to realize how lucky you are to be a part of such a great and abundant network. This view may entice you to put your all in creating a better world for yourself and everyone around you by sharing your love and kindness. So choose to connect to the network of love and abundance instead of hate, greed, and destruction. Begin a part of love and abundance. Be Being a part of Love and Abundance Network will bring you joy, connectedness, and happiness. Being a part of hate, greed, and destruction will ultimately destroy you, since there will always be someone who can compete better than you, and they'll destroy you. Living in the love and abundance state promotes cooperation and constructing a better world. So I'm truly thankful to KMET 1490 AM to bring this opportunity for me to be with all of you. And I truly appreciate Sean for creating and being with us throughout the time that we're together and directing all of it. And I appreciate all of you who are listening and being with us and opening your heart and ear to hear, and love for you to share your love with everyone else. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the latest research.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan is a radio and TV host, international speaker, psychotherapist, life coach, and the author of Life Reset, The Awareness Path to Create the Life You Want. She brings you the latest research and interviews with experts in the field of cognitive sciences. Anyone who loves to grow and create growth for humanity gets a voice on this call-in show. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk KMET 1490 AM and on KMET1490am.com.
Well, for all of you who have teenagers out there, you already know this by experience, but I guess researchers are going to tell you your experience again. They found out teenagers are less likely to cooperate or put effort into their mother's request when they are said in a controlling tone of voice. Researchers at Cardiff University have found that out. Speaking to a son or daughter in a pressurizing tone is also accompanied by a range of negative emotions and less feelings of closeness. A new study has discovered this. The experimental study involving over 1,000 adolescents aged 14 to 15 is the first to examine how subjects respond to the tone of voice when receiving instructions from their mothers. It's exactly the same when you talk to your mate, I promise you. Even when the specific words are used are exactly the same. If parents want conversations with their teens to have the most benefit, it's important to remember to use supportive tones of voice. It's easy for parents to forget, especially if they're feeling stressed, tired, or pressured themselves. The study showed that subjects were much more likely to engage with instructions that conveyed a sense of encouragement and support for self-expression and choice. The results, whilst of obvious interest to parents, could also be of relevance to school teachers whose use of more motivational language could impact the learning and well-being of students in their classrooms. Adolescents likely feel more cared about and happier, and as a result, they try harder at school. I'm telling you, everybody's like that. When parents and teachers speak in a supportive rather than a pressuring tone of voice. The new study published September 26th of this year, 2019, in the Journal of Developmental Psychology involved 486 males and 514 males who were aged 14 and 15. In this experiment, each of the subjects were randomly assigned to groups that would hear identical messages delivered by their mothers of adolescents in either a controlling, autonomy, supportive, or neutral tone of voice. Expressions of control impose pressure and attempts to coerce or push listeners to action. In contrast, those that express autonomy, support, convey a sense of encouragement and a supportive listener, sense of choice and opportunity for self-expression. Each of the mothers deliver 30 sentences that centered around schoolwork and include instructions such as, it's time now to go to school, you will read this book tonight, and you will do well on this assignment. After the delivery of these messages, each student undertook a survey and then answered questions about how they would feel if their own mother had spoken to them in a particular way. The findings showed that the tone of voice used by mothers can impact significantly on teenagers' emotional, relational, and behavioral intention responses across most outcomes. Adolescents who listened to mothers making motivational statements in the controlling tone of voice responded in an undesirable ways. In contrast, autonomy supportive tones elicited positive reactions from listeners as compared to listening to mothers who used a neutral tone of voice to deliver their motivational sentences. These results nicely illustrates how powerful our voices are, and in choosing the right tone to communicate is crucial in all of our conversations. Wow, I'm so excited. Dr. Habib Sadeghi is with us. He came right in the middle of the research. What a great place to show up with us. Hi, Dr. Sadeghi.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. For everyone who's listening and viewing us, Dr. Sadeghi is a founder of Beehive of Healing Integrative Medical Center in Agoura Hills. He has served as an attending physician at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center and is currently a clinical instructor of family medicine at the Western University of Health Sciences. Dr. Sadeghi is the author of 2 books, The Clarity Cleanse, right here, 12 Steps of Finding Renewed Energy, Spiritual Fulfillment, and Emotional Healing. And the other one is Within, Spiritual Awakening to Love and Weight Loss. He's a regular contributor to Huffington Post and the lifestyle website Goop, and serves as the editor-in-chief and publisher of the annual health wellness journal Mega Zen. It's an amazing journal. Dr. Sadeghi is also the co-founder of Love Button Global Movement, a nonprofit organization that promotes loving action and philanthropy within the communities of improved social cohesion. He's been a presenter and a keynote speaker in various organizations. So glad to have you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for that introduction. And it's really very auspicious to be here with you today. And I know that you're going to have your big day very soon as well. So congratulations. And I send so much blessings for you.
I'm putting my love button on right now. See, I have it right here. So, Dr. Sadeghi, what are we going to talk about? It's almost like, doesn't matter what I talk to you about, I always learn, and you're always gracious and amazing. So I know that you were doing some type of work also with ADHD, but you do so many work in so many different levels that I want to hear everything.
Sure. I think, so the article that I had shared with you, and I think that's really what you were asking of me, was an article that I had written, and I had looked at a possible correlation between specifically diet and a vegan or a vegetarian diet, and when it comes to the onset of ADD and ADHD depression, specifically in children and adolescents. And in that paper, what I had outlined was that, yes, there is a correlation, because most of us were unaware that the essential fatty acids naturally in the body gets converted to cholesterol. Cholesterol is present in every single cell in the body. So every human being has over 1 trillion cells, and in each cell we have cholesterol. Cholesterol is, if you would, the gate around the cell. Without cholesterol, life is not possible. And the reason that I'm taking my time and I'm outlining this is because most people, when you tell them cholesterol, it's as if you just show them the birdie. They get offended. Cholesterol is not a bad molecule. Cholesterol is the molecule of life. And the reason that it's the molecule of life is because essential fatty acid gets converted to cholesterol. Cholesterol then goes and it gives us different hormones, such as pregnenolone. It comes from cholesterol. It gives us progesterone. It comes from cholesterol. It gives us cortisol. How many people are, in a fight or flight response? How many people have adrenal fatigue, adrenal exhaustion? So it comes from cholesterol. We get DHEA, which is the precursor to testosterone, to estrogen. All of these hormones, they come from cholesterol. So if you literally or a child and your mom and dad, your caretaker, your parents, they think that it might be best for you to be on a vegan vegetarian diet, that might not really be true, because that could create more harm for you. Now, some of the listeners might say, well, wait a minute. People in India, they're vegan. There's sects of populations that they're vegan or vegetarian. How come there's nothing wrong with them and they're doing great? Yes, I agree with you. But when you look at generation after generation, that's a completely different mindset.
Right.
Than a person that all of a sudden they read a book or they watch a movie or someone says something and they say, well, okay, I'm going to be vegan or I'm going to be, doing this. And they're doing it mindlessly. They're not doing it intelligently. And obviously, as a mature, sophisticated, emancipated adult, every human being, we're responsible. I mean, if I want to be a vegan, I can be a vegan. But my children, I'm not sure if I would really advocate that for children for the very same reason that I just shared with you.
I totally agree with you. I actually tried for about 3 years to become vegetarian, not vegan, but vegetarian. And because I didn't do it intelligently and I didn't study about it, I actually made my body worse. I made it much more acidic. I blew up because all I was having was starches. And I had a really bad effect, an experience with that. So I totally agree with you that in order to shift your diet completely to something else, it's just the concept of a causality of knowing just, because I don't want to kill animals or because, having the cows are killing the ozone and all of that. It's okay to have that. But like you said, they need to know what it is that works for their body. And it isn't like anything that is out there. It will definitely work for their body. Each person really needs to understand what works for their body.
Absolutely. I think it's really sweet and compassionate that there are human beings on the planet that they don't ideologically, they don't want to harm other animals. And I really appreciate that. And I again, as I said, they have the prerogative to choose that. And that's okay. And I'm sure, and what I advocate is to do it, intelligently. I'll never forget, I was doing a research fellowship with probably one of the smartest human being on the planet that I know of. His name is Alfredo Sadeghi. At the time, he was the chairman of the neuro-ophthalmology department at Doheny Eye Institute, which back then was part of USC. Now it's part of Jewel Stein, UCLA. And I remember this young lady who came in. She was in her maybe late 30s, and she was going blind. And after Alfredo examined her and so forth, what she ended up having was she had a folate deficiency. So a lot of the B12, the folic acid, the B6, all the Bs mostly, they come from animal products. And I'll never forget when she walked away, she looked at Alfredo and she said, well, what you're telling me is that I really did this to myself, because she was a vegan. She wasn't, consuming eggs. She wasn't consuming dairy and other animal products. And we know that this creates an issue, because when you look at early 90s, there was a blindness epidemic in Cuba. And initially, United States thought that this was a virus, and they wanted to take care of it 91 kilometers from United States soil. So they sent 2 neuro-ophthalmologists to Cuba. One of the 2 was Alfredo Sadeghi, my mentor. And, once throughout the process, Alfredo realized that this had a lot to do with the economic embargo and people not having enough animal products and the consumption of bootleg rum that has a high content of methanol, and it creates B12 deficiency, folic acid deficiency, B6 deficiency. And once he discovered that, and then throughout the trickle down, they distributed the multivitamins, including high Bs, and a lot of people regained their sights back. So the reason that I say that is because anything to be done intelligently is very helpful. I listened to the research that you were sharing. Absolutely. Of course, the language, the linguistic abstraction that we use, it's very effective. I mean, one of the best books that I've ever read was by one of my other teachers, Gabor Mate. And
it's amazing.
Let me see if I can pull the book here. It's a great book, and I highly recommend it for all the parents. It's called Hold On to Your Kids. It's by two people. One of them is Gordon Neufeld as well as Gabor Mate. And listen, if we don't want our children to be oriented towards, if you would, other little idiots like themselves because they don't know any better.
Right.
Well, guess what you need to do is you need to be right there. You need to communicate with them. And you need to establish a level of connection instead of againstness. When you tell them don't use media, don't use this, don't do that, from the moment that they wake up, you're telling them no. And at a very young age. So of course, when they're early adolescents, there is, what sets in is a deep sense of resentment, anger, and againstness. And they're going to listen to other people. They're not going to be receptive to you.
Something, Dr. Sadeghi, one thing that I've understood is having little knowledge sometimes is dangerous, because when we get just an excerpt of a knowledge of this much, a little one in a news bit that such and such is bad for you, and then so everybody goes and stops taking it, or such and such is good for you, and then everybody's in this craze of taking it. So it's like little information. Sometimes it harasses you more in your body. And what I'm hearing from you, and I've experienced with myself, is to have the knowledge of what works. And sometimes we can have that experience with our own body if we're in tune with our body, because our body will tell us this is not good for me and this is good for me. And then, going to physicians and doctors that have an understanding and asking questions, listening to them, and knowing what the bigger picture of the information it is that you can actually use. Now, most people don't do that, to be honest with you. Most people, and I've been guilty of that. We don't. We take these little excerpts because every day there is so many studies that shows up that we just don't have access to them. But one of the things that I'm sensing from what you're saying is many of the disease and epidemic diseases that show up in large quantities, such as at this time, especially in the USA, the ADHD for children has been, let's say, overdiagnosed or diagnosed highly. For the little bit of an up and down, all the children assumably get this type of a diagnosis. And when usually you see something that is an epidemic, so there's some cause for it that these children are acting up a little bit. Maybe they're not paying attention. Maybe they have a lot of high, strong energy in their body that needs to be focused. But there's some of it is also that electronic and things that are around are taking their attention, and they create a multi-attention facility for them. I'm sure you've noticed. I even look at TV and news, and they can't just have a still picture. Everything has to be moving around, and gets your attention from here to there. So everything that is showing up, it's also adding to that piece. And I'm also hearing that the food and the disciplinary actions that maybe their parents do around food, or maybe the sugar content or something that is being more given to kids, is also creating some of the ADHD.
You're absolutely right. So what I hear you saying Dr. Zeine, is that human beings cannot be lazy, right? If you want to be lazy, then we need to have a trusted advisor and we need to listen. If we don't have the trusted advisor, then we need to be able to develop the skill set, which is thinking, to get the data that is provided, the information that's provided, and ask appropriate questions and think through it to see if it makes sense and if it's really something that applies to us. And once we do that, then you can't just consider something to be good or bad. And that's a very reductionistic way of living. Whenever someone tells me that this is good, this is bad, I usually run, and I run very fast, because that's the time that they want to sell you something. And I've been approached by people that they have significant zone of influence, and they want to put my face in Dr. Sadeghi super duper brain power multivitamins. And yeah, of course. And they would sell millions of bottles, and it would be very profitable. But I've never really agreed. Why? Because if there are to the extent that there are 7.85 billion people on the planet, I need to make 7.85 billion multivitamins that would apply. And that's really the only way that this would work. This idea, to be youthful again, or to do this, and if you eat this, and if you take that, you will. It's not only gimmicky. It doesn't make sense, and sometimes you could actually do more harm. And if you do have cancer cells inside, and every human being wakes up every morning with cancer cells, but our body fights it off, the natural killer cells and various different things. But if you have a temperament or a terrain or the body that actually produces significant amount of inflammations or cancer cells, and you do take a multivitamin, you can do more harm to yourself. So this idea that this is good, this is bad, it's reductionistic, it's naive, and it doesn't work. And it's not an intelligent way of looking at life and living. The idea that, I can tell you that water is bad. Why? Because right now, as we're speaking, there are people that they're in ICU setting in Cedars and UCLA or USC or out in where you are in Hoag's Hospital in Newport Beach, that they're in coma because they drank so much water that their sodium dropped, right? Psychogenic polydipsia. People that they're just juggling water down and they wash out a lot of the minerals, they go into coma, and eventually they die. So does that mean water is bad? No. You got to do things intelligently. You talked about food. If someone comes in and they talk about ADD or ADHD, even when they are diagnosed by a pediatric psychiatrist or a pediatric specialist, I pay close attention to the dynamic of the family constellation, the quality of food. We have documented functional MRIs, meaning that they hook up kids and then they give them food that they're GMO, genetically modified organism, and we can see that the parts of the brain that activates, it basically indicates that, oh my God, they have hyperactivity, they have attention deficit disorders. So we know that by eating, GMO, genetically modified organisms, you contribute with having those symptoms. So if you live in a household that there is a significant amount of disagreement, anger, resentfulness, there is no happiness, there is, if you were born since the age of 3, no one is having an eye contact with you, no one is communicating with you, and just because they want you to shut up so that they can have their food, they're sticking a media right in your face, and now you grew up with it, and it's the media that so eloquently you mentioned that every 12 seconds there has to be a movement to catch their attention. And then, oh my God, they have these sounds and they have these just exuberant stimuli. Well, who wouldn't be suffering from attention deficit disorder? I mean, how many people are gardening? How many people are turning off their phones when when they go home? How many people are sitting around in their dinner table and they're actually soul gazing and they're saying, well, how was your day today? And allowing little Johnny, allowing little Muhammad, little Jack, little Jill, little this to tell you, well, it was terrible. So and so did this. How many people are using the chewing that occurs during dinner table as an opportunity to chew through our days, so that when we go into sleep, into a deep level of sleep, or what's referred to as REM sleep, rapid eye movement part of this sleep, because of the highest level of growth hormone that's produced, we get to purge, we get to cleanse out our day. So the next morning when we wake up, it's
We're
like
fresh.
a blank canvas.
Yes, we're fresh.
So those are, it's very simple to just, look, let me tell you how simple it is. Here's a prescription pad.
Right.
Here's the pen. Within 90 seconds, I can put someone for 90 days with 3 refills. Great. How cool is that? But what have you solved? Now
Right.
you're setting them up, because it's very easy to put people on really, when you look at all these medications, there's side effects. The major side effects for them, especially when they are young.
One of the things that is in your book, and you called it specifically the clarity cleanse, because there's a specific reason why you started with clarity. It's not just another cleansing book or, a health book or diet book. You called it clarity. Say why. What is it that you think that clarity is? Why is it clarity the first component of this way of taking care of yourself?
Sure. When you're looking at, let's say you are the greatest chef, and let's say you have all the main ingredients that you need. In order for you to be able to do what you were born to do, what you have the dexterity to be able to do, you need this spaciousness to, cut the tomato, to cut the bell pepper. You gotta be able to break the eggs and, to make the omelet. So simply because you're gifted, simply because you have the knowledge, simply because you have the ingredients, doesn't allow you to be able to provide yourself and cook for yourself. So this spaciousness that is needed externally to cook, that spaciousness inside the mental space that's required, it's referred to as clarity. And most human beings, I think it's a side effect of the modern world. The number, you look at every human being and you look at the number of emails in their email box. People have 20,000, 30, 40,000 emails in there. And they actually think that at some point they're going to go back and they're going to review it and they're going to answer these emails. Look at their people that they're walking around on their, cell phones, and they have unanswered text messages. So their phone messages that people haven't had chance to listen to. There is such an array of information that's coming in. It's sort of like keep bringing eggs and tomatoes and bell pepper and garlic and butter and ghee. We have so much material, so much information is coming at us that we don't have this spaciousness to be able to process it. So to the extent that I believe, based on anthroposophical principles, that our consciousness precedes phenotypic expression. In other words, before little Johnny's neurotransmitter is disturbed, there has to be a consciousness of hyperactivity, not being acknowledged, not being seen, not being mirrored, that it leads into the downregulation or the disturbance of the neurotransmitter. And by putting people on medication, it will have a reverse effect. Medications create what's referred to as tachyphylaxis. If you get someone and you put them on a wheelchair and you say, you're tired or you sprained your ankle. Why don't you sit on this moped and just go around for the rest of the day, the week, the month, the year? And well, at the end of the year, they've lost muscle. They have, atrophy of the muscle fibers. They won't be able to stand up and to walk. So to the extent that we're aware of the plasticity of the brain, when you put people on medications, then it's natural production of the chemicals inside the brain that it's referred to as neurotransmitters will drop off. So then people need to be taking these medications for the rest of their lives. Now, it's great when you're looking at trickle-down economy,
right.
But it's not health, it's not healing, and it's not supporting people. Because now they're taking these medications, and at night they can't rest because most of these medications, they're really modified versions of speed. So when you put people on speed, it's sort of like pressing the gas on the car. It's more difficult to stop at the end of the night when you want to go to sleep. So people are sleeping later and later and later, and they're laying flat in their beds, tossing and turning. And now they need a second medication
to bring them down,
to calm them down, to put them to sleep. Now you put them on another medication for insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
Now if they don't take medication, now they feel, jittery inside. They feel like they're anxious. Now they go in and they say, I'm anxious. And they put them on an anxiolytics to break down their anxiety, another medication. And if they don't want to do that, human beings, they do the best that they can with the knowledge that they have. That's really what human beings do. So now we self-medicate. Now we consume alcohol, or they use, some type of self-medication to calm themselves down. And it all over a period of time, it just eats through the mental spaciousness that I refer to as clarity. Now you have a life which is filled with chaos.
Right. Is there a particular form of dietary path that you have found that works for ADHD for children and then adults?
So that's a brilliant question. And a good way to address it would be to look at what it is that we know that doesn't work, a lot of which you covered. We talked about genetically modified organisms. Eating mostly organic is very helpful. And I'm aware that not everyone can eat organic 100%. But guess what? Just look at some of the most, here's what you do. Look up, you can just look your favorite search engine, okay? And you can look up some of the fruits or food that they're usually very pesticide filled. Things such as strawberry, things such as apples, right? These are some of the things that maybe if you want to have them, maybe you could have them organic, so they don't have as much pesticides and fungicide in them, that we know it really activates the parts of the brain, especially children, because they're still developing, that would create hyperactivity, that would create attention deficit disorders. So eating mostly organic as much as you can, consuming water, making sure that you get enough rests, sleeping at night. Before you sleep, not just cutting out the media, turning down the lights. Most human beings, if you look at the birds, just do what birds do. As you're traveling, as you're walking or driving down the streets towards the end of the day where Earth is setting, okay, it's not a sunset, it's Earth setting. You'll see, you see birds sitting on a wire somewhere, and they're looking at they're looking at this beautiful sky. What are they doing? They're preparing for sleeping. See, over a period of millions of years, our eyes when they see a blue color, they activate the parts of the brain that cuts off melatonin. We know melatonin is a very important chemical when it comes to when it comes to handling
Sleeping.
and supporting ADD and ADHD. So at night, if you want to watch TV, if you want to listen to the news, watch a movie, great. You can easily get yourself a pair of glasses that's called blue blockers. Well, what do? They do exactly what they're called. They literally will block the blue light. And by blocking the blue lights, now the brain doesn't think by looking at this screen, and the screen could be as simple as your smartphone.
Right.
And because all of that, they activate the brain. So by just getting, it's $12, and it's the best $12 that you can invest, 12, 13, whatever it is, that you can get it, and you can get it everywhere. It's called blue, like the color blue, blockers, like you block something, blue blockers. By doing that, now all of a sudden you're setting yourself up to have a very restful, rejuvenating sleep. How difficult is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to eat dinner, then, you know, don't eat beyond 6 o'clock. Don't eat beyond 7 o'clock. Why? Because every organ in the body has a clock. See, as I'm sitting here, not every single organ in my body is functioning. It's create chaos. So at night, when you go to sleep, liver.
Can we hear you?
So classification for rejuvenation.
Yeah, I think we lost you for a minute. You said that when we go at night, and you were talking about the liver detoxifying. So go ahead and share more about that.
Sure, yeah. So what we're talking about that every organ in the body has a clock, has a system. Not every organ in the body is active at the same time. Liver is mostly active at night. If we eat a very heavy meal late at night, and late is beyond 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, then the body is processing, and the liver will not have the ability to rejuvenate, to detoxify, to cleanse out. You know, being able to, when we wake up in the morning, even for kids, just teaching them to start with a little bit of warm water, maybe a little bit of lemon, and they can get used to it. If they don't want to do that, just give them a glass of water.
Right, you start with the water, actually.
12 hours. Yeah. You could actually do that. Then set them up. You know, don't start with cereal. Don't start with a carbohydrate. Pay close attention to the glycemic index, which is the rate that the sugar breaks down. When you eat something like cereal, bread, you get a significant amount, high content of sugar, and then it drops. When the sugar goes up and it drops, now this kid goes into this process that he becomes hyperactive. He could become hypoglycemic, and he or she doesn't know exactly what to do. So then
So it seems like if you are noticing and you're aware and you really understand about,
pay attention.
Right. If you understand what goes on in the morning or understand what goes on at night at your body, then you can modify whatever it is that's happening. So starting the day with protein versus sugar, then it would support you not to have those type of peak experiences of sugar high, which a lot of times allows more energy for the ADHD.
Absolutely. You know, including things such as fortified fat. Which, you know, like ghee would be a good example. Ghee. Ghee in Ayurvedic medicine, it's actually considered to be a medicine. You know, cooking, you know, if you want to make an omelet, you know, using ghee, right, instead of oil. Having a piece of gluten-free bread, having ghee on it, and some honey, raw honey. Most human beings, they're unaware that there's a difference between raw honey and the honey that is processed. The honey that is processed, that is cooked, that they separate, you know, all the bee propolis and all the good minerals from it.
It's not as useful, obviously.
So that's not what I'm talking about. That's right. I'm talking about some raw honey with bee propolis, unprocessed, uncooked. Now, and especially going to there are beekeepers everywhere. Now, look, this is so good. This is so good. And I share this from a place of humility. Finding out, I don't care where you live. You can go and look up and find a beekeeper and going and say, and just getting just this small bottle of, a small bottle of honey, just unprocessed honey, and having a small little spoon, right, every day, your allergies will disappear. And to the extent that you have an adolescent, their allergies will disappear. Why? Because the beekeeper is within your vicinity. The bees, they pollinate and they pick up the toxins, all the pollens and everything, and they process it, they break it down, and it's included in their honey. So when you have a spoon of honey, it's really medicine, and your body starts producing antibody and resistance to the allergens, all the things that there's around you. Now, why is that important? Well, you're not going to be sneezing. Your little kid is not going to be doing this all the time, and they're not going to have what's referred to as an allergic salute, because now they're going to have a crease here. They're not going to have the allergic shiner, right underneath. It's not going to be all dark. They're going to be able to go to a deeper level of sleep. You don't need to take antihistamines. We know, it was published in reputable Nature, that the more antihistamine.
I think you're cutting off. The more antihistamine that you have, it seems like it's blocking your natural essences. You were saying that you got cut off for a minute, that the more antihistamine that you're using, the same way you were saying that your body loses the ability to actually fight these because you're giving it the antihistamine. Is that what you were saying?
That's exactly right. What does histamine do? Histamine increases blood flow. When you take antihistamine, you decrease blood flow. So then the natural killer cells in the red blood and white blood cells and so forth in the blood, they cannot reach the cancer cells. So the chances of people getting cancer goes up. That's a good way of looking at it. And not to mention that there are correlation between antihistamine and actually cancer-causing agents. So this is a lot of information, but there is simplicity. There's a system underneath it. What's underneath it is clarity. What's underneath it is slow down. Slow down. Just because you're not on Facebook, just because you're not on Instagram, just because you're not tweeting, just because, you're not on social media, that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world.
Right.
It's okay. And if you want to be on there, just bring some moderation to it. So that's spaciousness. Children, they mirror what we do. If I speak 100 miles an hour, one of the things.
We're losing again. If we speak 100 miles an hour, or if we act 100 miles an hour, one of the things.
Anxiety.
Right. If you speed up, with speeding, anxiety shows up. That's what I'm hearing from you.
That's exactly right. So, setting up children, setting up adolescents for success. When they wake up, how are they waking up? Are they being touched? Are they being looked at? Are we shouting at them? Are we keep screaming that, hurry up, I'm late for work? And then when you drop them off, of course, they're all.
Yeah, they're not being connected to their own body. They're not being connected to the family. They're not going to being connected to the love.
They're going to have.
Yeah.
Right.
At times you get. I think the Wi-Fi is a bit slow, so at times you get stuck. And so I'm sharing what I think you're wanting to say until you come back to us. So what I heard from you is that there's a way that a human being wakes up to the world, and the way they wake up, they can either wake up to care and love and connection to themselves and to their parents and other human being in the world, or they can wake up into a space which like, screw this, I'm disconnecting because there's harshness, there's too much going on, and I just need to go into my own zone because I can't handle being out there.
Exactly. Very well said. That's right. So this is a multifaceted way of approaching a problem instead of wanting to just take a medication.
Yeah. So everyone who's watching and listening to us, Dr. Habib Sadeghi is the author of Clarity Cleanse, also the founder of Beehive Medical Center, Integrative Medical Center. Dr. Sadeghi, I think we only have a couple more minutes, and I really want you also to talk about Love Button movement, because I know it's an international movement. It's a global movement. And I know that even Sister Jenna had said that it's in New York right now. And I think last weekend it was also participating in New York and the global citizenship concert that they had. Talk a little bit about that so our listeners know a bit and how they could support it.
Absolutely. So Love Button Global Movement is a grassroots effort, and the tagline for it is pause and love. Mm-hmm. We truly believe that loving is really, in order to love, you need to have that spaciousness, that mental space inside. And love as an active role is not only healthy for us, but it's healthier for society because it provides a deeper level of connection, compassion. We know research after research, we know that people who love, you lower the level of psychosomatic illnesses, lower the cortisol and so forth. And your listeners can find more information on lovebutton.org.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And they can also find you at beehive.com, right?
Beehiveofhealing.com.
Beehiveofhealing.com. Thank you so much for Dr. Sadeghi for in this time that you're going all over the world. You set a time again to be on my show. It's always a pleasure, and I always learn from you. So thank you for your beautiful time. And hopefully, as you have more to say, and I'm sure you always do, and with the latest research, that you will show up and talk to us and to our listeners again and again. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invite, and you're special, and I really appreciate what you're doing for so many of us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for all of you who are listening, create an amazing world for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, take great care of yourself. Bye-bye.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
News, talk, and sports for the Inland Empire. AM 1490 KMET, Banning,